This is an experiment. This is my film review while I film my exercise routine for the week. The film I'm talking about today is The Materialists, the new Dakota Johnson movie that came out just recently. Overall impressions are very positive. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very clean cut, very romantic, but honest at the same time. When I go into a new movie, I like to get rid of any expectations I might have and just go in wanting to see what the director wants to show me. And so I tried to do that with this film, and I think it really helped. I think overall, the whole aspect of it was a modern romance, not in the way that would give you butterflies, although there was some. I'm not going to complain about Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal, but my point is that with the music and the acting, cinematography, all of it came together to create a really enjoyable and pleasant picture. And it wasn't like happy and sunshine all the time, but it was relatable and real enough, but still with that movie feeling that takes you out of reality into kind of like a dream world, but one that you are wanting to understand rather than escape real life. So this movie helped me understand my life a little bit more, which I really appreciated, and helped me to better understand what beliefs I had about dating and thoughts and some of the modern trends that we don't talk about or really address in cinema today. So that was really refreshing and really interesting to watch. When the movie started and the credits were, like the beginning credits were happening, that's when I knew who she would end up with, because usually when I watch a movie, the guy right after the main girl's billing, so Dakota Johnson, and then it was Chris Evans billed next in the credits, so I'm like, oh, of course she ends up with Chris Evans. And so that was not a spoiler, but it helped set up for the story to unfold in a way that I would be curious to know why she ends up with Chris Evans. And that was an interesting journey to take, just watching that happen. And the further along I got in the movie, the more it was apparent. Well, it looked to me as if it was exploring how each of the characters interacted with the concept of love and a partner. And so Dakota Johnson's character, by given the choice between the two guys, one was her ideal, the other was an idea. Anyway, with that choice, she was able to be introduced to the idea of love and the concept, and watching her go through that, and with her job, it was really, I think she acted it really well. Dakota Johnson did a really great job. I was reading somewhere that Chris Evans does his acting best when he's playing a normal person, and I think the same thing can be said for Dakota Johnson. Both of them were really good in this, I think. And along those lines, Chris Evans, his character, watching him go through the journey, wanting to be a better man because he loved Dakota Johnson's character. And that was good to watch him go through that. Pedro Pascal's character was interesting. The way that they introduced him was so nice to watch. I mean, not just because of his face. I mean, we take that for granted. But the way that they introduced his character and the kind of person that he was, they describe him as, in the movie, as a unicorn. This mythical being that, only one exists. And it's like, that's one of the reasons why our standards are so high as women, but blah, blah, blah. But his character was so fascinating because when you get to the end, you realize that he didn't understand or didn't know or, all of these things, but he was a stranger to love himself. And being in the relationship with Dakota Johnson's character helped him to realize what there was inside of him that maybe he wanted to change or that he didn't want to change. You know, he got to know himself more through her, it seemed like. And that was really, really interesting to watch. Something that I noticed as well watching this movie was that the conversations that they had were so normal, you know? Sometimes you'll be watching a movie and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely a script that someone wrote for these people. But some of the conversations that they had in this movie were just so raw and real sounding. That's like you could expect to overhear this kind of a conversation in a restaurant or just on the street. I mean, some of it was, you know, obviously scripted, but this movie just came across so authentic and honest. It was really, really interesting. Because the conversations were the way that they were, I found myself wanting to hear the dialogue and waiting to see what they would say and what happens next. And that's something that I like to look for in a movie, just if the dialogue is interesting. Another aspect that I really appreciated about The Materialists is that it tied in the symbolism that it introduces in the beginning, which is two cave people, you know, like the first people to ever get married. They have them in the beginning and they set up this nice little picture, and then we have the whole movie, and then at the end they bring it right back with the symbolism and the same flowers and imagery and the music, and they just leave you with that really pleasant picture of an honest and open-hearted relationship between two people who care about each other. And that just left me smiling after the movie was over, and it just left me with a really good feeling afterwards, and I wasn't confused or upset. Like, everything happened the way that it needed to happen, how it set itself up with the story and the people. It was really fun to watch. I think a word that I could use to describe this movie is just lovely. Yeah, I think I would just use that one to describe it, because it's not mind-bendingly awesome, it's not epic, it's not like the greatest love story ever told, but that it was just so simple yet effective. It really brought a new light to the romance genre, I think, by keeping it so, I don't want to say plain, because that you know seems like it's going to be boring, but it wasn't plain. It was just simple and lovely and honest. Because the movie was rated R, I was expecting some explicit like sex scenes or something, or at least some nudity, but there wasn't any. Like, at most we got was like that one back shot of Pedro Pascal when he's in the shower, but like we didn't even, like, that was it. And that was really pleasantly surprising, because it showed that to have a good love story, you don't have to rely on the sex. And even though the couple, like, they do get together and they have, you know, some really passionate kissing, like, they didn't rely on the shock and awe of nudity to get a point across, which I really appreciated. Like, I get it, in some cases, like in some movies, you want to have that extreme imagery to tell your story, but this movie didn't need it at all. The way that they used the actors and the storyline and the music, all of it was really well put together, and they didn't need to rely on anything else to kind of push their point even more, if you know what I mean. All in all, I really enjoyed it. I left the theater smiling, and it made me feel good, and it helped me to address some things that I had in myself that I didn't know were there, and it made me think differently about life and about love, and it was really special. It was a good movie. Solid. I'd watch it again, for sure. And I might even watch it with my mom. No, it was good. It was good.